All right, this is block 7. We're going to do isometric, or you could call it 3D, three-dimensional. Okay, we're adding a third axis to our paper. So on 2D or multi-view, we just had an X and a Y, so we could only show a Y up and down. Pointed to the wrong one. We had an X and a Y on multi-view. Now we're adding a Z axis, so we're able to show depth. So in doing that, we only have to actually draw one view instead of 3. And we can usually show everything we need to show in that. So before we actually start drawing, we're going to make a little cheat sheet. So come over and get a Post-it note from me if you haven't already. And I want us to write a few things down on here to help us as we work through these. Okay, draw an arrow going straight up and down, kind of in the top left corner of your paper. Arrow going straight up and down. Label that arrow Y. We're going to label the axes on this paper in case we get confused. And then from the bottom of that arrow, draw an arrow going northwest and label it X. And then from the bottom, draw a corner going to the northeast, or an arrow going to the northeast, and label it Z. Okay, kind of make that be its own section. Jot this down, and we'll explain it here in a little bit. Right, X equals width. Y equals height. And Z equals depth. Okay, then section that off. And we're going to write down the 4 steps. Step 1, find the length. Step 2, adjust for scale. Step 3, is it height, width, or depth? Step 4, so which axis? All right, this is your cheat sheet. You should keep it. It's going to help you out when you get stuck, okay? So I'm just going to put this in the corner of my paper, and this is going to follow me along on every drawing I do, okay? If you come over and you say, Matson, I'm stuck, I can't figure this out, the first thing I'm going to say is, where's your Post-it note, okay? Because that's going to really help get you out of a jam. All right, Mr. Willis did us a favor on this paper. You don't need to border or add your title blocks. He did those for you. Kind of switched the order around, but that's fine. So name, put your name. Keep it all capital. Just looks nice for drafting stuff. Title, this is block 7. Date, put today's date, and period, put your hour. All right, here's our block. You might recognize this block. It was also our block 3, but we're going to draw it in a different way, and I just wanted everybody to kind of have a simple one to start with. Okay. First of all, we're going to change our scale up a little bit. So since we're only drawing one view, we don't want it super small on our paper. So I'm going to go scale. I'm actually going to go, this time I'm going to go 1/2 inch equals 1 inch. Okay, 1/2 inch equals an inch. So that means 2 units on my graph paper equals 1 inch in real life. So basically I'm going to double the numbers, and that'll make more sense. Hey, I'm going to do something that I'm going to use a Sharpie, because I'm looking at the screen and I notice it's hard for you guys to see my pencil because this graph paper is darker. So scale, 1/2 inch equals 1 inch. Okay, so I'm just going to work through these steps and use these 2 things for reference, and we'll go from there. For starting point on these, just come over your paper about 1/3, then come up your paper, I don't know, about 1/3. So over about 1/3, up about 1/3. You don't need to count or anything, and put your starting point where all 3 axes intersect. Okay, and then I always like to make that be the bottom left corner of my front view. I like to work around, find all my X and Y values, and then add my Z's. Okay, and it'll start to make sense as we go through it. All right, so that starting point is here. So I'm just going to work through my list. I want to do this line. Okay, so it says find the length. My length is 5. It says adjust for scale. So my scale says 1/2 inch equals 1 inch, which basically means I'm going to double all my numbers. So if I find my length is 5, adjust for scale, it becomes 10. Is it height, width, or depth? Side to side is always width, so it's going to be width. So which axis? This tells me that width goes on X, and this tells me that my X is that one. So I'm going to go 10 on the X. Okay, so what I'm counting when I count here is every time I cross another axis is 1. So my starting point is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm going to connect those with my ruler. Okay, so that line is there. All right, now I need to do these sides. So step 1, find the length. The length would be 3.5 minus 1, which would be 2.5. Okay, adjust for scale. 2.5 becomes 5. Is it height, width, or depth? It's going up and down, so it's a height. So which axis? This tells me that height goes on Y, and this tells me that my Y is the one going straight up and down. So from the ends here, I'm going to go up 5 on the Y. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Connect with my ruler. Okay, so I got the bottom and the sides. Now I need to do these. So find the length. 1. Adjust for scale. 1 turns to 2. Is it height, width, or depth? It's going side to side, which makes it a width. So which axis? Width goes on X. X is that axis. So I'm going to go in on the X. 0, 1, 2. Over here, 0, 1, 2. And connect with my ruler. Sorry about the foam. Okay. Now I'm going to do these. 1, find the length. 1, adjust for scale. 1 turns to 2. Height, width, or depth. It's a height, so it goes on, height goes on Y. So up 2 on the Y. 0, 1, 2. 0, 1, 2. Ruler. Okay, now I know what I got left to do here is connect those, but let's double check it. Find the length would be 5 minus 1 minus 1, which would be 3. Adjust for scale, 3 becomes 6. Height, width, or depth. Width is side to side. Which axis? Width goes on X. X is this one. So let's double check, make sure I'm right. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. So that means I most likely did everything right to this point. So I'm going to connect them. Okay, now I have this whole front face. I just need to add my depth. Depth, so find the length is 1.5. Adjust for scale, double it, 1.5 becomes 3. Height, width, or depth. Depth goes front to back. Okay, so this is depth. Which axis? Depth goes on Z. Z is that one. So on my corners that I would see from this angle, I'm going to do a depth line on the Z of 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Connect. 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 And then this one's going to go behind the object and disappear. So it'd be 0, 1, 2, 3. It'd actually go to there. And side note, you don't show hidden lines on isometric. Okay. Now, I'm just going to go around and connect those endpoints. And it should always parallel the front view. So connect. 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 Okay. Cool. Bring your drawing over. Let me check it. Save your drawing and also save your cheat sheet. This needs to follow you to each drawing.